I am Lily Chen, 29 years old, and I never imagined that being a forensic accountant would one day save me from my own mother. People hear forensic accountant and picture courtrooms, fraud trials, corporate scandals. They don't picture a Sunday afternoon phone call with your mom that ends with you filing a police report. But that's exactly what happened to me, and I still don't fully know how to feel about it, except that I'd do it again. Let me back up. My mother raised me and my younger brother Kevin on her own after my dad left when I was 11. She worked double shifts at a hospital administrative office. She clipped coupons, she bought our jeans from Goodwill and made us feel like it was an adventure. I watched her do all of that, and I decided very early on that I would never let money be the thing that defeated me. I studied hard, got a scholarship to a state university, graduated with honors, and landed a job at a mid-size accounting firm in Columbus, Ohio. By the time I was 27, I had my own apartment, a good salary, and, this matters later, an excellent credit score. Kevin took a different road. Not a bad person. Not lazy, exactly. Just someone who always believed that the next thing would fix everything. The next job, the next city, the next relationship. He was 32 and still treating life like a rough draft. My mother adored him. That's not me being bitter, it's just true. Kevin was funny and charming and easy to be around, and I was the serious one who asked too many questions. We had a functional relationship, the three of us. We talked on the phone, we did holidays, it worked. Until my mother called me on a Sunday in March and told me she had decided to take the family to Sedona, Arizona, for a week in June. I found a house, she said. 5 bedrooms. Right on the Red Rocks, it's beautiful, Lily. I asked her how much. She paused just slightly too long. The rental is $4,800 for the week. But there are 4 of us, so it works out. I did the math. 4 of us? Who's the 4th? Kevin's girlfriend, Amber. She's been with him 8 months. She's basically family. I took a breath. Okay, so $1,200 each? Well, another pause. Kevin and Amber are a little tight right now. He just switched jobs. I thought maybe you and I could cover the house and they could handle groceries and activities. I knew that tone. I had been hearing it my whole life. It was the tone that meant the conversation was already over and I was just being asked to confirm the conclusion she had already reached. Mom, that's $2,400 for me just for the house. That's not counting flights, food, anything. Lily. Her voice went soft in that specific way. You make good money. Kevin is struggling right now. Family helps family. I told her I needed to think about it. She told me the rental required a deposit by Friday. I said I understood. We hung up. I sat with it for 3 days. I made a spreadsheet. I know, but that's who I am. And the total cost for the trip, splitting my share generously, came out to somewhere between $35,000 and $4,000. That was 1 month of my take-home pay. Not impossible, but not nothing. I called my mother on Wednesday and told her I could contribute $800 toward the house rental, and I would cover my own flight and expenses. The silence on the other end of the line lasted long enough that I checked to see if the call had dropped. $800, she repeated. That's what I can comfortably do right now. I'm also saving for. Lily, I've already told Kevin and Amber that we're splitting it 2 ways, between you and me. Then you told them something I didn't agree to. You're being selfish. That word. She knew exactly where to aim it. I'm not being selfish, I said as evenly as I could. I'm telling you what I can afford. After everything I did for you, working all those years, I never once told you what I could afford. We went around like that for another 10 minutes. By the end, I had agreed to think about it more. I hadn't agreed to anything financially, but I had also not held my ground the way I wanted to, and I felt sick about it after I hung up. I did not call her back that week. On Saturday morning, I was at my kitchen table with coffee and my laptop doing some personal budgeting when my phone buzzed with a notification from my credit card app. A charge. $2,312 from a travel booking site. I stared at it. I opened the app. The charge had processed at 11:47 the previous night. I had been asleep. My credit card number. My account. $2,312 I had not spent. My hands were completely steady when I opened the dispute portal. That's the thing about doing fraud investigations for a living. The emotion doesn't hit first. The procedure does. I flagged the charge as unauthorized, requested an immediate account freeze, and called the card's fraud line before I even touched my coffee again. The representative confirmed the charge was for a vacation rental, Sedona, Arizona. Check-in date, June 14th. I asked her to read me the name on the booking. She said she could not share that information, but that the cardholder, meaning me, had not initiated the transaction. The fraud team would investigate. I thanked her, hung up, and then I sat very still for a moment. Then I called my mother. She picked up on the second ring, which meant she was awake and had her phone nearby. It was 8 a.m. on a Saturday. "Good morning," she said, and her voice was perfectly normal, perfectly warm. "Did you book the Sedona rental last night?" I asked. A half-second pause. "I found a better deal. I didn't want us to lose it. Using my credit card." "Lily, how did you get my credit card number?" The silence this time was different. Not the punishing silence she used when she wanted me to feel guilty. This was the silence of someone recalculating. "I had it from when you bought my plane ticket for Christmas," she said finally. "You read it to me over the phone. That was 18 months ago. She had kept it, written it down somewhere, held on to it. You used my card without asking me," I said. "I knew you'd say no. That's why She stopped herself. "That's why you what?" "I thought if it was already done, you'd understand it was the best option for everyone. I have interviewed people who embezzled from their employers. I have sat across tables from individuals who doctored financial records for years without losing a night of sleep, and I recognized in that moment the specific logic of someone who had convinced themselves that what they did was reasonable, that the outcome justified the method, that the person they'd wronged would eventually come around. "I've already disputed the charge," I said. "Lily, don't do this. The cancellation penalty, that's not my problem. It's a family trip. You used my credit card without my permission." "That's fraud, Mom. It doesn't matter that we're related." She started crying. I had expected that. I had loved my mother my entire life, and her crying still did something to my chest. But I had also learned, slowly, over years, that the tears sometimes came when other strategies didn't work. "I'm going to need to report this to the card company as fraud," I said. "Which I've already started. I wanted to call you first so you knew. You're going to report your own mother. I'm reporting an unauthorized charge on my account. That's what happened." We stayed on the phone for another few minutes, but the conversation was over in the way that mattered. She told me I was cold. She told me I had forgotten where I came from. She told me Kevin would never do this to her. I let her say all of it. After we hung up, I went for a run, 5 miles. I needed my body to be doing something physical while my brain processed what had just happened. When I got back, there were 4 missed calls. 2 from my mother, 1 from Kevin, and 1 from a number I didn't recognize. I called Kevin back first. He picked up immediately. "What did you do?" "I disputed an unauthorized charge on my credit card. She was trying to do something nice for the family. She used my card without asking. She thought you'd be okay with it." "Did she ask me?" "Kevin?" He was quiet for a moment. Then, "She's really upset. I understand that. Can't you just let it go this once?" This once. As if there had not been 100 other small things over the years that I had let go. The time she told Kevin I would help him move and didn't mention it to me until the night before. The money she borrowed and never repaid, not huge amounts, but it added up. The way every family decision seemed to begin with what Kevin needed and work backward from there. "I can't let this one go," I said. "This one is a crime." He made a sound that was somewhere between a sigh and a scoff, and then he said he needed to go. I sat with the silence of my apartment for a while. It smelled like coffee and the candle I'd lit that morning. Outside, the street was doing its ordinary Saturday things. Then I called back the unknown number. A woman answered. "Amber. Kevin's girlfriend. We had met exactly once at Thanksgiving." "I just want to understand what happened," she said, and her voice was careful. Trying hard to be neutral, I explained it plainly. "My card. charged without my knowledge. I'd disputed it. So the trip is cancelled? She asked. That would depend on whether someone else pays for the rental? Another beat of quiet. Then, very quietly, we can't. We really can't afford it. I know, I said. I'm sorry you're in the middle of this. And I meant that. Amber hadn't done anything wrong, she was just somewhere she hadn't chosen to be. I spent that Sunday pulling together documentation. I had always been meticulous about my financial records. I know exactly what I spend and when, so I had a clean record of every transaction on that account going back 2 years. I wrote a clear timeline. I saved the notification, the call log, the dispute confirmation number. I did not call a lawyer because I did not want this to become a legal event if I could help it, but I wanted to have everything organized if it did. My mother called again on Monday evening. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message that started soft and got harder toward the end. She said she had spoken to my aunt, who agreed that I was being unreasonable. She said family didn't treat each other this way. She said she had sacrificed the best years of her life and I was throwing it back in her face over money. I listened to it 3 times. Not because I agreed with any of it, but because I have learned, professionally and personally, that when someone is trying to make you doubt yourself, it helps to actually hear the argument clearly so you can assess it clearly. Not react to it, assess it. The argument was, she had done a lot for me, therefore I owed her things, including the right to use my property without asking. That's not how love works. That's not even how fairness works. You don't accumulate credit with another person that you can then spend without their knowledge. The fraud investigation closed 11 days later. The charge was reversed. I received a new card in the mail. My mother didn't contact me for 3 weeks after that. Then she texted, just once, to say that she hoped I was well. I texted back that I was and asked how she was doing. She said fine. We did not talk about Sedona again for a long time. Kevin called me 6 weeks later. Not about any of it, or at least not directly. He called because he needed a reference for a lease application and wanted to know if I would do it. I said yes, and I gave an honest reference when the property manager called. Kevin said thank you afterward. We talked for a while about other things. His new job. My work. A documentary we'd both somehow watched independently. It wasn't an apology. But it also wasn't nothing. What I keep thinking about when I sit with all of it is the moment I saw that charge notification. I think about how calm I felt. Not cold. I want to be clear about that because cold implies that the feeling wasn't there. The feeling was there. I was hurt. I was genuinely, deeply hurt that my mother had decided she knew better than me what I should be doing with my money. That she had looked at the number she'd kept in some notebook for 18 months and decided that her desire for a nice family vacation outweighed my right to be asked. But the calm came from something I had been building for years, quietly, without fully realizing it. Every time I had sat across from someone who had made a mess of their finances, through their own choices or someone else's, I had promised myself that I would keep my own house in order, that I would know where my money was and why, that I would not let anyone, no matter how much I loved them, make decisions about my resources without my knowledge. That wasn't coldness. That was the thing I had built in the years when I had nothing, when I watched my mother stretch her paycheck so thin you could see light through it, when I decided that money would be the arena where I would be absolutely clear-eyed, absolutely intentional. She used that same card to buy me a birthday gift the year before. A soft blue sweater that I still wear. She had wrapped it in silver paper and left it on my doorstep with a card that said she was proud of me. I have thought about that sweater more than anything else. I don't think she is a bad person. I think she spent 30 years doing everything for everyone and somewhere along the way started to believe that love and obligation were the same thing. That if you loved someone, you were obligated to give them what they wanted. And that if you loved someone enough, you were owed the same in return. I don't believe that. I believe love is the thing that makes you want to ask first. That makes you want the other person to choose freely. My therapist. I started seeing one the month after all of this happened because I am a person who believes in maintenance. My therapist said something that I've thought about a lot. She said, the people who love us most are sometimes the ones who have the hardest time seeing us as separate people with our own inner lives. And that learning to hold onto yourself inside a relationship, especially a family relationship, is one of the hardest things a person can do, and also one of the most important. I think that's right. The summer I would have been in Sedona. I took a long weekend to a small town in Vermont I had never been to. I rented a cabin by myself. It rained the whole first day and I sat on the porch and read and felt something settle in me that had been unsettled for a long time. On the second morning, the sun came out and everything was dripping and green and absurdly beautiful, and I made coffee and stood outside with it and thought about the fact that I had chosen this. Every single part of it. The cabin, the town, the quiet, the morning. Mine. My mother and I are in a careful place now. Not distant, but careful. We talk more about surfaces, what we cooked, what we watched, how work is going. The deeper things are there underneath, like a current under still water, and I think both of us know they are there. I still haven't decided what I want to do with all of it. Whether I want to have the real conversation, the one where I say everything I've been saying here, out loud, to her face. Whether she could hear it. Whether I could say it without it sounding like an accusation rather than what it actually is, which is grief. Grief that the person who taught me to be strong is also the person I had to protect myself from. But I am in no rush. I have learned, this year more than any other, that not every wound needs to be lanced immediately. Some of them you carry for a while. You tend them. You let yourself feel the full weight of them before you decide what to do. What I know is this. I love my mother. I love her in the complicated, unresolvable way that you love someone who shaped everything about you, including the parts she didn't mean to give you. I know that she loves me in her way, even when her love doesn't look like what I need it to look like. And I know that keeping my own account locked and my own records clean is not a betrayal of that love. It's just how I stay in one piece. To knowing the difference, I said. To nobody, standing at the window of a Vermont cabin with coffee going cold in my hands. To knowing the difference. I used to think that being a good daughter meant making things easy for the people who raised you. Absorbing the cost, swallowing the discomfort, calling it love. What I understand now is different, and it took a Saturday morning bank alert to teach it to me. My mother did not set out to hurt me. I believe that completely. She looked at my life, the stable job, the good apartment, the credit score she once teased me for being obsessed with, and she made a calculation that felt, to her, like logic. Lily has enough. Lily can handle it. Lily will come around once it's done. And somewhere inside that calculation, she stopped asking herself the question that actually mattered. Did Lily agree to this? That's the thing I keep returning to. Not the charge itself. Not the $2,300. Not even the fact that she had kept my card number for 18 months without telling me. It's the moment she decided that my answer didn't need to be part of the equation. That's where everything went wrong. Not because she was malicious, but because she had spent so long doing things for her family without being asked that she forgot asking was the whole point. Actions have weight. Every choice we make is a stone dropped into still water, and the rings move outward whether we watch them or not. My mother chose to use my account without my knowledge, and that choice moved outward. Into the fraud dispute, into the canceled trip, into the 3 weeks of silence, into the careful way we speak to each other now. She did not intend all of those rings. But she dropped the stone. And I dropped my own stones too. Years of letting small things go. Years of absorbing the cost because it felt easier than the conversation. That taught everyone around me, including myself, that I had no edges. That there was no point at which I would say, "This is mine, and you cannot have it," without asking. I had to learn that my silence was not kindness. It was just a different kind of cost. One I was paying alone. What I've come to believe is that integrity isn't just about the big, dramatic moments. It's not only about what you do when someone is watching or when the stakes are obvious. It's about what you do at 8 a.m. on a Saturday when the charge notification arrives and your hands are steady and you know exactly what the right thing is. even though it's going to hurt someone you love. Kevin said I was cold. My mother said I had forgotten where I came from. I don't think either of those things is true. I think I finally remembered who I was, which is a woman who built her own stability out of nothing and has a right to protect it. Not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. There's a version of strength that looks like giving everything away, and there's a version that looks like knowing what belongs to you and holding it with both hands. I spent a long time confusing the first one for virtue. I don't anymore. The cabin in Vermont was quiet and green and entirely mine. I chose it. I paid for it. I sat on the porch in the rain and felt, for the first time in a long time, completely at peace with my own decisions. That peace didn't come from punishing my mother. It came from finally stopping the punishment of myself.